to another edition of Better Informed Housing. My name is Carl Dreyer, and I'm hosting this May edition of Better Informed Housing. Better Informed Housing has devoted its energy to passionately inform communities of their real estate rights. Many of the communities are politically underrepresented, and the city of Chicago has over 100,000 vacant properties. These zombie properties, as we call them, attract crime, invite danger, and drive down neighborhood values. Better Informed Housing seeks to change that. You can check out our website here. If you have any questions, please call in tonight, and we're happy to answer your questions about tonight's topic or any relating housing questions that you may have.
My name is Faisal Khatib, and I'm also with Better Informed Housing. You can call us anytime at the phone number below at 312-738-1060, and our offices are located at 218 North Jefferson, Suite 103, Chicago, Illinois. Our phone number is 312-533-2688, and you can email us at any time at neighbors@betterinformed.org. You can call this evening, as this is a live broadcast, at 312-738-1060. Today is May 15th. Carl, thank you for inviting me to come tonight.
Thank you. Faisal, can you give me a brief introduction of the most popular scams out there that buyers are falling prey to at this time?
Well, buyers and sellers and people usually are in trouble in terms of scams. One of the things that we talked about this previously in a different show was buyers always want to make sure that the property that they're buying is what they believe that they're buying. So it's important to have good, reputable professionals who are working with them, from attorneys to real estate agents to inspectors, who can actually make sure that they can go through the property to make sure that the property that they have is the right property. One of the things that I think, other types of scams that people come across is usually when people are in trouble financially. And those types of scams include where, sign over your deed to someone and this person will help you and take your property and save your property. So those are things that you want to be aware of, not to just willy-nilly sign over your deed to someone without having an attorney present or an attorney representing your interests. You never want to have the same attorney representing both the buyer and the seller, because that is fraught with problems, because you never know who the buyer is trying to protect.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the issue of title and deed scams. So, are deeds recorded with the Office of the Recorder of Deeds?
So a deed is essentially a conveyance of property, and there's a whole bunch of different types of deeds. You've got warranty deeds, which says I'm conveying it 100%, and I'm warrantying the deed is a good deed, free and clear. Quitclaim deeds also take place a lot, and that essentially is a quitclaim is conveying whatever interest that I have to you, Carl, for example. So I can give you a quitclaim deed to the Brooklyn Bridge or the Sears Tower.
Okay.
I technically have absolutely zero interest in either of those properties. However, I can sign a quitclaim saying if I had an interest, whatever that interest is, I'm giving that to you. So you have to be very careful about quitclaim deeds, because they themselves don't carry a lot of weight unless you know for sure that they have that the person who's conveying it actually has an ownership interest. So you always want to find a lawyer to help you with that, so that way the lawyer can actually track and check the chain of title, can check the title report to see if there's any encumbrances on title or if there's any mortgages on title. You see this a lot in divorce cases where a husband and wife will be in the divorce and their attorney tells them to, or the court says, well, the husband's going to quitclaim his interest to the wife, but they failed to acknowledge the issue that there's a mortgage. So then the wife gets a quitclaim, but there's still a mortgage on the property in the husband's name, and now she can't talk to the mortgage company, she can't negotiate with the mortgage company. She has absolutely no rights whatsoever in the mortgage or the loan, but she's got this quitclaim which is subject to the mortgage, which means her quitclaim essentially is second to the mortgage. So it's very important to know what's being quitclaimed and then what rights are coming with that. So, and we can talk about that in another segment as to how to do that in a divorce case. But for this practical purpose, the issue you said was conveying properties, and is that deed recorded? So then I can do a deed to you, Carl, and the law states that as long as I have certain information of the deed, which is a description of the property, a legal description, as well as an amount that I'm conveying, who's conveying it, so the grantor, which in this case I'm giving you, so I'm the grantor, you're receiving, so you're the grantee, okay? And there's a consideration amount, usually that's nominal, $10 or $100 that they put on the deed itself. And once I've written that out and I've signed it, it's not valid until I deliver it to you. So once I've given it to you and you've accepted it, then you've taken ownership and you now own the property. You said something about recording quitclaims, well, or recording deeds. So the reason you record the deed, and the entity that holds that in Cook County is the Cook County Recorder of Deeds. And you can just do a quick Google search of the Cook County Recorder of Deeds, and they'll pop up, and that's how you can search property ownership and deeds and conveyances based on either the PIN number or the grantee-grantor. But what that means is you own it, but you don't have to record it, okay? So if I gave you a quitclaim, for example, I've conveyed all my interest to you. And then 2 weeks later, I go to some guy in the corner and I say, here, I'm giving you a quitclaim to the exact same property at 123 Main Street. Then he has, in his mind, he has an ownership in that property, and you have an ownership in that property, but neither one of you have recorded. So in that sense, whoever records first provides notice to the world of their ownership interest. So if you have a deed and it's not recorded, that's a really bad idea because someone could have conveyed it to somebody else. So recording is not mandatory to establish ownership. It's just a really good idea to make sure that whoever gave it to you doesn't give it to somebody else, to avoid that scam. So the purpose of the recorder's office is to prevent scams from happening. That's one of many purposes, but that's a key purpose.
Now, I've had clients in foreclosure cases who have received calls from third parties claiming that they could make the payments for a refinancing of their mortgage if they would just quitclaim deed to them the rights to their property. What kind of problems are involved with that?
Yeah, so there's a lot of problems that go along with that. Anytime someone is saying, I'm going to save your house from foreclosure, quitclaim it to me, that's usually a dangerous proposition, and it doesn't go usually the right way. I mean, there are some legitimate ways of doing that, and ways to acquire property that way. However, if someone's telling you they're going to save your house, quitclaim it to them, and they're going to refinance it in their name, and then you can live there for as long as you want, those are usually fraudulent. It's essentially use of a straw man. And it's just fraught with problems because it would fall under, in that case specifically, for example, there's something called the Mortgage Rescue Fraud Act, which has which the state of Illinois passed that prevents people from taking your property from you for less than what the value of the property is. So, for example, I'm in foreclosure, I have a problem, and you come up to me, Carl, and say, hey, Faisal, I will buy your property, quitclaim it to you, and then you'll refinance it, and then you've saved my property, essentially. Well, the issue there is there may be equity in the property, they may be worth a lot more than what you're claiming it is. So there have been instances where the Attorney General has gone after people and said, hey, this is a fraudulent scheme under the Mortgage Rescue Fraud Act. So you have to be very careful of someone coming to you saying, quitclaim the property to me and I'll refinance it for you. That's kind of sketchy. Now, if someone comes in and says, I want to buy your property, and they said, give us a quitclaim, we're going to buy it from you, they're going to give you some money or let you stay for a certain while, some certain exchange, that's possible. That might be an opportunity. Again, it falls under the Mortgage Rescue Fraud Act because they're taking advantage of you in a difficult situation. So like I always say to everybody, it's very important to find a lawyer who understands these types of actions,
Right.
understands real estate law, understands foreclosure, understands the Rescue Fraud Act, to make sure that you are protected and that someone's not coming to take your property away from you.
So, when a person finds their dream home and they've signed a contract, they have a mortgage, what can go wrong? Is there any way that the wire of the money won't go through, or can it be misrouted? What are ways that it could go wrong?
There's actually it's a new thing these days. We all very familiar with the ransomware that's hit the world essentially in about 150, 170 odd countries. So there's been a scam going on with real estate closings for several years now, and that's where people have hacked into email accounts and then sent in fake wire information. So the buyer comes in and says, hey, they would wire a percentage, 20% or 10%, whatever their down payment is on the house. They think they're wiring it to the title company. In essence, they've been given a false sense of documents without anybody knowing, and they wired the funds to some random bank account somewhere else that has nothing to do with the transaction. So they get to the closing and they find out, oh, where's the money? Like, oh, I wired it. And they said, oh, no, that's the improper wire account. So you want to make sure that before you wire any money, you verified it with your attorney and the title company as to how much exactly you need to wire and where you're wiring it to.
Okay.
So the wrong numbers and the wrong information can be an issue.
And what would an attorney do to make sure that there was going to be an appropriate wiring that wasn't going to be to some fraudulent group or individual?
So your attorney is going to reach out to, if you're the buyer side, the buyer's attorney will reach out to the seller's attorney and reach out to the title company to verify over the phone what the actual numbers are. An email or a text message or any of those types of electronic transmission is insufficient these days. So there's always been, on a regular basis, at least we do in our office, is we have a verbal confirmation as what the actual wire transfer information is to where it needs to go for the title company.
At this time, I'd like to invite anyone who would like to call in with any questions with regards to the topics that we've been discussing today to call in to Better Informed Housing. If anyone is interested.
The number's at the bottom of your screen. You can call 312-738-1060. Again, that's 312-738-1060. Better Informed Housing Corporation. We are located at 218 North Jefferson, and you can find us at betterinformed.org. We're looking to build the future, save the community, and help their neighbors, educating people on all of the real estate transactions and real estate needs.
So what would be the best thing that someone can do to make sure that they don't get scammed when they're looking to purchase or refinance a home?
So one of the things that I would strongly recommend is you should always have an attorney involved in the transaction. Right. Even on a refinance. A lot of times people are like, oh, the attorney is worthless, I don't need an attorney. The lender said I don't need an attorney, I can do it through them, everything is fine. I would recommend always have an attorney look at your documents and always have an attorney involved, because what that does is that protects you on multiple levels. One, if there is a mistake and something goes wrong, the attorney is liable, right? So that's their job, to protect you. If it's a scam, the people who are scamming you are going to be less likely to want to go forward with the scam if there's an attorney involved. And hopefully the attorney will be able to smell the scam from a mile away and identify the fact that there is a scam that's taking place. So that's why I would always recommend having an attorney, even on a refinance. Sometimes it's inconvenient and it might slow things down, but attorneys can be a huge help when it comes to making sure the refinance is done right. On the buy, that's really up to, it's a trifecta. You've got your inspectors making sure that there's no underlying problems that you haven't seen with the property. You have your attorney who's making sure that you're getting clean title. And you have your real estate agent who's a professional who should know what kind of property they're selling you. What are you looking for? What do you need? What do you want? And then finding something that fits your needs. So that's something I would also recommend. It's important. And to find the right attorney, the cheapest is definitely not the best on all fronts, whether it's your real estate agent or your inspector. or your attorney. If you're looking for the cheapest guy, you get what you pay for. And nothing against guys who do really cheap closings or don't really charge low rates, and more power to them.
Mm-hmm.
But in those instances, what you end up doing is I mean, if an attorney, the attorney makes anywhere between $200 to $400 an hour is their a rate for an attorney. The better the attorney, obviously, the more expensive. But in general, if your attorney is going to spend hours, and on a buyer side closing, you could probably spend at least 4 or 5 hours all in from the time you get the file to the time that you actually finish the closing. At 5 hours, if you're only charging $300, I mean, you're getting paid 50 or 40 or 50 bucks an hour. Not knocking that down, but it's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. If I was getting paid 40 bucks an hour for 8 hours a day constantly, that's a different story. But you're getting 40 bucks an hour over the course of 45 days, right?
Right.
And only 5 hours of that you're working. So it's not a lot for the amount of work that's being put into the file. So just something to take into consideration. You want to find an attorney, pay an extra $100. You're buying a $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 house. You're buying a huge investment that's going to last you 5 to 10 years. Spending an extra $100 to make sure you get the right attorney is really a no-brainer.
Now, what about with the foreclosure assistance programs that are out there to help homeowners either sell their house or to keep their house if they're in foreclosure? What can people do to prevent themselves from being scammed from those kinds of programs?
Well, the most important thing is anybody who's not an attorney who is offering to help you with their foreclosure, bad idea.
Yeah.
Okay? Anybody who is outside of the state of Illinois offering to provide you help on your foreclosure or your refinance, whatever, bad idea. Because they don't know Illinois laws. They don't know the requirements here in Illinois. And you can't go and knock on their door if something goes wrong or they disappear or they stop returning your phone calls. So it's really important to stay local in that regard. I don't mean like in your same neighborhood, but at least in the same county or in the same general vicinity. Like, for example, Chicago, it's the Chicagoland area, which includes the collar counties. That's very important because you want to make sure that whoever you're dealing with knows what's going on in the market that you're in. The other thing you want to be aware of is it's an attorney. There's a lot of people out there who, and I've had many clients who come in and they'll get these postcards or these terrible documents which looks like it's a mortgage statement or looks like it's coming from the government or looks like a government check, and these are fake documents or these are false. They just create these in order to trigger you to make a phone call and call them so that way they can generate leads and generate business. And it's funny, they'd only expect a 1% to 2% or 3% return based on those mailers. To increase that response, they make it look more and more and more official. So you want to be very, very cautious about anybody who's saying that they can help you, who's not in Illinois and who's not an attorney. And not an attorney in Illinois. That's very important. Anybody who's also asking for money up front, you want to be very cautious of that. Okay. That's not an attorney. No. Because attorneys aren't going to work for free. They're going to want their money in advance so that way they can actually do the work with money on retainer. But you want to be very conscious of that. And then anybody who's going to tell you, don't worry about the foreclosure, we're just going to focus on your loan mod, the foreclosure, who cares about that, it's okay, don't worry about it. That person is your enemy and run from them. They are horrible, horrible people because they don't understand that you cannot simply negotiate only with the banks. You must have, if you're going to do a loan mod, you're going to do a short sale, you're going to do a refund, whatever you're going to do with those situations, if you're in foreclosure, you need a foreclosure attorney going to court for you and defending your case. Because they will foreclose, they will take your house away, and they will do it as fast as they possibly can, okay? And after a certain point in time, as you get further along in the case, you lose defense after defense and you lose opportunity after opportunity. I've had many people who have come to me in my office, and they've had great cases early on, but then someone told them, oh, it's no big deal, ignore the foreclosure, or they buried their head in the sand, and then they come to me a year later and they're like, oh, please help me, and I'm like, it's way too late. There's nothing we can do for you. Had you come earlier, we could have kept you in your house for 3 to 5 years without a payment, or we could have gotten you a short sale, or done a loan modification and saved your house. All these things were options, but sometimes you hit the point of no return, and once you've done that, there's nothing anybody else can do for you.
So what, in a foreclosure matter, what is considered to be a point of no return?
A point of no return would be judgment. So if they get a judgment against you, summary judgment, sometimes actually filing an answer. So you want to make sure you have a foreclosure attorney who's helping you in those cases. But Carl, I want to thank you today for inviting me and having me on today.
Thank you, Faisal.
Better Informed Housing. The number here is 312-738-1060, but we are wrapping up today. My name is Faisal Al-Khatib, and we're here at betterinformed.org. Again, Better Informed Housing Corporation, you can visit us at www.betterinformed.org, or you can email at neighbors@betterinformed.org. That's BETTERINFORMED.org, or you can call the office at 312-533-2688, located at 218 North Jefferson, Suite 103 in Chicago, Illinois.
Well, thank you for another edition of Better Informed Housing, and we hope you have a great evening. Thank you very much.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.